Good evening. Hello, DeGayla here. I'm coming to you this evening with a moment of wisdom. If you saw my first video, we talked about dating, and I am coming to you from my book called The Open Wounds, The Healing Process. My book can be found on Amazon. You can see a copy of it. The front copy, you can actually see the Band-Aid on the finger, the bleeding, and we'll get into what that means. And here's a little bit about the back. You'll see the relations. You'll see a couple walking, some baggage, and some of the things that are on the baggage are things like anger, fear, different things like that. You can find it online. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about relationships because this book is important to me because it's important what we do between relationships after a bad breakup, and how we handle that breakup, and how soon we go out and get new people in our lives and we haven't healed from the past. So I'm going to get into this a little bit with you about what to do in between those relationships and how to heal properly without using someone else to cover up old wounds. We use that person as a Band-Aid. So I'll get into a little bit about what the book is about. There's a chapter in here I'm going to read some excerpts from about using people as Band-Aids. Have you ever wondered how people start a new relationship as soon as they have ended one? Well, it's because they would rather just find someone else to help with the healing. This is not the way to go about it. When you invite someone into your life and you are fresh out of a relationship, it can really be unhealthy for you and the other person. A lot of times we go into these relationships and we don't know that we haven't healed. You hear people say, oh, go out and date again, date quickly, because it helps you to forget the first person and you can get past it quickly. That's not a good way to handle a breakup. And also, it's not a good way to heal either. We have to realize that we haven't dealt with our issues. And trying to, move on, it just pushes things on the back burner and you're not dealing with it right away. And then you bring this new person in your life and you've got this baggage, all this baggage that you bring with you. And we don't realize we have the baggage until that person ends up doing something to kind of bring that memory out of what the other person did to you. So let me go into what I mean a little bit here. You'll understand what I mean. Please understand that bringing someone else into the drama of your past is a no-no. It's unfair, insensitive, and selfish. What did the new person do to deserve this kind of treatment? Here are some of the signs that you may have starting a new relationship all too soon. So these are the signs things that you might notice and you might recognize. And if you do, please, like I mentioned before in the first video, get a journal, get some paper if you want to take some notes, because these are some very important things to know, especially if you're trying to find a relationship, a permanent relationship. You don't want to make the same mistakes of your past. So let's talk about some of the bullet points. Because you have been scarred so badly, you lash out at the first sign of something you feel the new person has done wrong. Now, that might sound familiar to you. It sounds familiar to me. And then have you ever heard the other person go, I ain't the other person. I'm not that person. Why are you making me pay? So that's something to remember. Their actions would trigger some sort of bad or painful memory of what the previous person has done to you. So think about it. They could do something, and they probably are so oblivious. They don't even know they did something wrong until they hit a nerve or hit some sort of trigger in you, and then you realize, oh no, dang, did I do that? You'll think about it later when they bring it to your attention that you probably did do that. So keep that in mind. You hear those dreadful words, I don't want to pay for someone else's mistake. So I know you've heard that before, or you've said that to someone else before. Me personally, I've done that. I have told someone, previously that I dated, I would say, you know what? I'm not her. I'm not that person. I'm me. See me as me. But see, they don't realize that they haven't dealt with the pains of their past. So let's move on. let's talk a little bit more about getting into a new relationship. So let me just kind of read a little bit of an excerpt to you. Excuse me. So, did you know going into a new relationship that it may be too soon, or that you should pump the brakes and slow down a bit? Maybe you got a gut feeling of hesitancy in the beginning that said, no, you're not ready. Perhaps you heard it from a family member or friend. They are always too willing to offer unwanted advice. And their matters of opinion are always spoken freely and forced upon you, even if you don't want to hear it. But yet, you dove in with your emotions all over the place, wanting to be loved and appreciated. Some of us are guilty of this, including me. Yes, you might have saw the red flags. Now, I don't know if any of you are, all of you, some of you may not be believers in God, but I am. I'm a believer in God. I'm a devout Christian, and I know God gives us signs. And he gives us red flags. And I think we see those red flags and we go, no, that's not red. That might be blue. So I went through that myself. And I always use myself as an example. In the first video, I talk about that. You'll hear a lot that I'm sharing with you that are going to be, this is from experience. This is why God impressed it upon my heart to write this book about healing, because I myself am guilty of not healing properly and going right into a relationship too soon. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about who's told you, who said something. And I believe God speaks through people. And you'll hear something on TV, something will come on the news, or you'll see a movie and you'll be like, that looks kind of familiar. But you know how we do. We kind of ignore the signs. So try not to ignore the signs that you did get or you are getting about not moving forward. Try to really look at them and say, yeah, maybe I need to step back. Maybe I need to take a minute and give yourself some time to think about it. So let's move on. So the next excerpt, we're going to talk about the things that you go through with a new relationship. You might run into different things like that person, they did something that sounds like the person. They did something that reminded you, and you'll start seeing things that's kind of reminding you. So you lash out, we lash out, and it's kind of bad that we do that, but we will. And then you wonder, okay, what in the world just happened? So let me kind of talk about a little bit. If you find yourself acting this way, and some of these examples ring true with you, then my friend, you are guilty of having a human band-aid in your life. Try asking yourself the following questions. Is it all really fair to the new person in my life? Why should they pay the price for my pain and hurt? So let's talk about that for a minute. No, it's not fair to you, new person, because really, are you offering your whole self to that person, or are you just offering a percentage of you, because the other percentage is left in your past? In your past, you still have yourself attached to the pain of that past. So the new person that comes into your life can't have all of you, because part of you is stuck somewhere else. Is that fair? Think about it. And why really should they pay? Should they really pay? Of course they shouldn't. And it's not fair, because you're causing them new pain. You're causing them pain that they didn't even ask for. So really think about that one. I want you to really think about it, because it's important when you're going into relationships. Why should they become your life raft to keep you from drowning in your own drama? Now, I've had one of those before, and it's like a safety net. It's like you have them there, and you don't want to be by yourself, and you're like, oh, no, having someone here, it forces me not to think about the past. Because you're too focused on the new relationship, you can't think about anything else. And they keep you from dealing with that past. And I'm telling you, it's so important that you not use other people as a band-aid. Now, I'll give you a previous example. It's in the book as well. And I talk about, you remember how we were little and we would get those little band-aids we get a little boo boo on our hand, and our parents would kiss our boo boos away. You remember how we used to do that, and it'd be a little scratch. And you need a magnifying glass to see the scratch. It'd be so small, but the parents make a big deal out of it. Their kids are like, oh, and then you get your little Band-Aid. And you remember how you put your Band-Aid on, and it might be a little cartoon colored one or a real pretty colored one, and then you go outside and you have your little friends outside playing, and you're like, oh. They ask you, what happened to your hand? And you're like, oh, I cut my hand. You want to see it? And we always show it, and then we take the Band-Aid and we lift it off, and then you put it back on, and then by the time you get in the house, that Band-Aid, all the sticky stuff gone, and your parents are like, why do you keep taking the Band-Aid off? You're like, well, I want to show my friends. So guess what happens? When you keep revealing that wound, it never heals. It never heals. So the Band-Aid comes off, Band-Aid goes on, Band-Aid comes off, it goes on, and you don't leave it on so it can heal. So when we use people as Band-Aids, the new people keep coming into our lives. There goes the Band-Aid on the scar. And when they leave, it comes off. It goes on, it comes off, it goes on. So what happens if you don't heal properly? That scar never heals. And that new person will do something that'll prick you. It's like they'll do something that'll remind you of something, and you go, oh, dang, that hurt. I didn't even know I was still dealing with that pain. So I think it's important to take the time to heal, so that once that Band-Aid goes on and you get your Neosporin and you put it on there, and you've seen it happen, that Band-Aid stays on long enough, and then you take it off, and guess what? You just have like a little bit of a scar. That's how God does our hearts. He heals the brokenhearted. And on the front of my book, I have a scripture reference, so please write it down. Luke 4:18. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted. And that's what God does. So you've got to allow God to heal you the proper way. Take the time to heal that you need. So just to keep that in mind. So let's move on. Why put such a heavy weight of responsibility on someone else to fix you, or try to fill the empty holes in your life? Now, it's not fair. And why would you want to do that? Would you want somebody doing that to you? I want you to think about some of these questions. Me personally, this is why I wrote the book, because I didn't realize I hadn't healed from my past. I had wanted the new person in my life to become my void filler. It was like, come to find out, we both had not healed. We were like Swiss cheese in a relationship, and you got all these holes, and I could not figure out why I didn't feel like happy. And it wasn't him. He was trying to be this Superman, like, oh, what do I do? And I'm doing the same thing for him, and we couldn't figure out what was going on, and we realized it was our past. Our past, both of us had not healed from our past, and we were trying to use each other as that Band-Aid and a void filler. It does not make for successful relationships. So please keep that in mind. I wanted to talk about relationships out here because I know a lot of people are going through this, and they're trying to figure out what is going on and why is this happening. I can only discuss things that I've experienced. And believe me, some of the things went through in your life, you're going to have to share them one day. You're going to have to help someone else. So keep that in mind, okay? Think about it. Are you looking like Swiss cheese in your relationship? Or are you this solid block of Kobe cheese or cheddar cheese? That's my favorite cheese. Anywho, I just thought I'd use that scenario because think about it. They come solid blocks. And Swiss cheese comes with a lot of holes in it, don't it? So think about that. Just a minute. All right, let's move on. The next bullet we talk about is, are you truly afraid of being alone? I think it's important to think about, it's important to think about that, because if you're afraid to be alone, there's something within you that you're going to have to work out, and that's a fear. And when you haven't healed properly, you look for other people to fill those voids in your life that are missing. And I'll talk, I'm going to you'll see in another video about being a whole person. And you just don't want to have voids in your life. You don't. And I think it's important. It's so important to make sure that you learn how to be alone, because you're learning to be comfortable in your own skin. So we'll get into that on another video, but I wanted to kind of put some excerpts out here, put some things on your mind so you can kind of think about these things. And I want you to kind of do this as a homework assignment. I want you to kind of use some of these things, think about it, and do a homework assignment for yourself. And some of the things I ask is, how did you do on the questions? Think about it to yourself. All of these examples put you in a place of a very selfish and self-centered person. Yes, that was me. Your intentions may not be to use anyone at all, but if you find yourself doing these things, then your actions confirm that you are. You may not want to admit it, but you are clearly taking advantage of another person's feelings. And in this message, is this the message you want to send? Really? Do you want to let someone else feel your pain? And think about it. You heard it. What goes around comes around. You've heard that. That's been around as long as I can remember. And you reap what you sow. It is very true. Think about what you're pouring in. Think about how you're treating the next person. Think about, would you really want this done to you? Think about how you're spending time with the person that's in your life. And I think that's very important. Okay. And I want you to consider these things because it's very important. Okay. Really write them down. Remember, you're not taking into consideration of how they might react once you decide to blow up. Of course, we never think about what could happen. We only want to live, in the moment. And that is the way the world sees it. So this is not the kind of respect you want to show that person in your life. Put yourself in their place. Okay? Think about it a moment. Try pondering on some more questions. I'm going to give you a few more. I want you to think about them tonight. Okay? Would you want to be treated this way, like I asked you earlier? Think about it. Could you imagine for one moment being on the receiving end? What would you do? How would you react? So, if you believe in the power of prayer, pray about it. Ask God to help you work through this stuff. If you have a good friend you can talk to, someone that can help you work through some of these things, I think it's important. Okay? Dating can be tough, and getting to know people can be tough, and breakups, of course, are tough. But this is why I wrote the book, Open Wounds, the Healing Process. It's important to heal before you move on to someone else. Because what happens is, it's more than two people in the relationship. It's you and them, the new person, and then it's a whole lot of other people that you have not either forgiven, let go of, and healed from a lot of the pains of your past. So keep that in mind. So I want you to focus on your questions and maybe focus on that and do a homework assignment for yourself and see how you do. And think about some of the signs that you might have that you're not ready to move on. Really think about some of those signs. You, instead of taking the time you need to be alone, you hang on to the person so that they can be your safety net. We know we do that. We do that a lot. You expect them to catch you when you fall. You keep them around so they can fill those empty voids, as we spoke before. You figured if you have someone around, it keeps the attention off of you and you never have to deal with your own baggage. And that's very important. We all do it. We sweep all these emotions. We sweep them under the rug, our pains and feelings and all of that stuff. And we hide it. And we're keeping it from ourselves. And that's not a good way to deal with your relationship. So keep in mind, the only time you feel the old emotions is if your significant other or someone, remember, they'll trigger a memory. Now, if they're triggering memories, that's not good. Try to heal from your past. Take the time. Give yourself time to breathe. Take a break. It's okay to take a break. And try not to jump into a relationship too quickly. When we jump in, it's doomed for failure. Because you're not all of you and your feelings and emotions are involved in this relationship. You are pretty much you're pretty much going in just a percentage of you. So any new person that you meet that's amazing, whether it be man or woman, so this video is for the guys too, can be an amazing person, and they deserve a chance to have all of you. So I hope this helped you. It's been very nice sharing with you. And if you did like the video, please like, please share, and please actually send it to someone that you think it might help. And I'm hoping and praying that it does help you, and that God will give you the wisdom of what to do in your relationships moving forward. Okay? Thank you for joining me, and thank you for allowing me into your home. And grace and peace to you and yours. Take care.